Less than 6 weeks, Idahoans are going to hit the polls for the May primary election. And those who have requested an absentee ballot start getting those sent to them in the mail this past week. And if you receive yours, maybe you have some questions about it, about the ballot itself, your district, or even your party affiliation. Over the next few weeks, we hope to answer as many questions as we can about the election, starting with a few today. One on voting districts and another on voter affiliation with a political party. Here's Joe Paris.
In 40 days, Idahoans will head to the polls to vote in the 2022 May primary election. Already, some voters are sending in their votes on absentee ballots, which leads us to a big question from John in Boise. John writes to us, "While filling out my early absentee ballot, at the end of the first page, I noticed candidates for District 22 listed. Since I'm in District 21, wouldn't that be illegal?" Great question. We went to Ada County Clerk Phil McGrain for insight on the possible mix-up.
Odds are they got the correct ballot. It's just that this is a year of redistricting.
Important to remember, Idaho just installed new voting districts as a part of the census process that we do every decade.
New districts were just put in place in the middle of March in terms of the data being updated. So this is all very new, and it was a race for all the county clerk's offices to get that information completed so we could mail out those very first absentee ballots.
To help verify the situation, we searched John's address in the helpful Find My Ballot search tool on the Ada County Elections website. There we confirmed McGrain's hunch about redistricting is correct. But McGrain says this is a great reminder. It never hurts to make sure all of your information is up to date.
One of the best things you can do is just feel free to check. So at adacountyelections.com, you can actually look up your address, find out what district you're in, and see a sample ballot that you'll be voting on. So even before you head to the polls, or if you want to check to make sure the ballot that you see online is the one that you got in the mail, just to verify that, you can easily independently do that through our website.
Another issue a voter ran into this week, seeing the wrong party affiliation listed in the state system. Deborah let us know that she wanted to affiliate with the Republicans after being unaffiliated, but she saw on her record online that she was listed as a Democrat affiliate. So what do you do in this situation? McGrain says reaching out to the clerk's office is a great step.
We can easily look in the records. We keep track of everything. And yes, errors can occur. And so if it was a clerical error on our side, we can fix it. We can even fix it while a voter is present at the polls and get that adjusted.
Deborah in the clerk's office came to the conclusion that it simply was a mistake that has since been fixed. There are receipts, so to speak, on all transactions someone has with the clerk's office. So if a mistake is made, it is easy to double check the receipt. It's just as easy also to refute claims made by voters who may have missed a deadline.
If someone swears by it, we'll be able to go back through the records and we can fix it if we can find the record. But just somebody asserting that, I've been a lifelong X, Y, or Z isn't sufficient. We actually do have to have the paper trail. And for everything, whether it's voter registrations, party changes, election history, we keep track of all those records reflecting people's participation.
Well, kudos to them for getting these absentee ballots turned around in a short amount of time, having to change with all the redistricting and everything. So that is great. But now we want to talk about the voter affiliation. And that deadline, we know, passed on March 11th for anybody that wants to, say, vote in the GOP primary but was registered as a Democrat or whatever. Yes. But unaffiliated, how does that play out?
Let's clarify this here once and for all, because if you are currently an unaffiliated voter, meaning you've never been with the Republicans or Democrats, or you decided to unaffiliate, then you are able to change your affiliation at the polls. Again, this is only for unaffiliated voters. If you're already a Democrat or a Republican affiliation, it is too late. The March 11th deadline has passed. Now, Brian, you and I were talking in the newsroom this afternoon with our producer, Danny, and we're talking about the legislation that could have been passed in the State House that would have made some big changes. I'm not going to bring them up because it'll make the whole thing confusing, but what you need to know, if you're an unaffiliated voter, you can change your affiliation up to and on Election Day in Idaho. If you're already registered, you're out of luck.
If you'd like to vote in the Democratic primary, you could be registered as a Republican, but you get the Democratic primary ballot.
Right.
But if you want to vote in the Republican primary, you have to be registered as a Republican.
Correct. And you can only get one. So if for some reason you wanted to vote in multiple, too bad. You got to pick one based on your affiliation.
Totally easy to understand. Thanks, Joe.
You got it.
All right, going back to this affiliation and how many people have changed theirs and whatever. With Idaho's GOP primary closed, as we talked about, meaning only registered Republicans can participate in it, we heard a lot of chatter over the last few months about people planning to switch their affiliation to be eligible for the May primary election. The idea, or the fear, depending on your perspective, was Democrats were going to jump in to try to influence who will end up as the Republican choice come the general election in November, since this year is a highly contested campaign on the Republican ticket. But has that actually happened? Well, we talked to Phil McGrain a few months ago, who says, yeah, it does happen sometimes, but not often. But we decided to check for ourselves. We took a look at Ada, Blaine, and Kootenai counties to see just how many voters have switched affiliations this year. As of yesterday, in Ada County, there were more than 297,000 registered voters. And there was a deadline of March 11th that we just mentioned for already registered and affiliated voters to change their affiliation. In Ada County, from February of last year, 2021, 4,390 voters voting Democratic then did just that. They switched to Republican. More than 5,000 who were unaffiliated joined the GOP ranks as well. So there were about 9,500 new members added to the Republican rolls in Ada County. And there could be more come Election Day because, as we mentioned, since unaffiliated voters can register as Republicans at the polls on Election Day. In Blaine County, considered one of the bluest in Idaho, there are a little more than 15,000 registered voters. Between November and March, 170 voters switched their affiliation from Democratic to Republican, which brings the total number of newly registered Republicans in Blaine County to 402. Kootenai County, the Coeur d'Alene area, there are more than 103,000 registered voters, or at least there were as of January. Between November 3rd of last year to March 11th of this year, 353 registered voters changed their party affiliation from Democratic to Republican. So I guess, yeah, it has happened, turnover at least, to some extent in Ada County, but in a much smaller percentage in Blaine and Kootenai counties. Just a reminder, you can register or request your absentee ballot for both the May primary and the November general election right now at voteidaho.org.